Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports, where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co-host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Grant. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I want to apologize to everyone real quick before we get started. I'm apologizing in advance. I'm not feeling 100% today. I'm a little under the weather. Kind of hurting me to talk right now, but I'm gonna try my best. So if the energy is not 100%, I apologize. But yeah.
We got you, buddy.
All right. So we're just gonna start out how we start out every episode, and that's with our hot take of the week. So Mason, go ahead and give us your hot take this week.
All right, so I think a lot of people are going to think this is a bit of an overreaction, but I'm just going to flat out say it. I think Ravens could potentially be on fraud watch when it comes to playoffs with their lack of defense. They have 5 losses right now, sitting at 8-5. They lost to the Raiders, Browns, Chiefs, Eagles, and Steelers. So 2 of those are kind of concerning, but the other 3 are playoff contenders. So we'll see if they can be able to win those big time games when it really counts. So yeah,
Mm.
that's my hot take of the week.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think I said that a couple weeks ago that the Ravens' biggest opponent is themselves. Like they beat themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, the defense has been a problem for them. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it's like come playoff time.
Right.
My hot take of the week. I was having a hard time thinking of a hot take this week, but I'm basically doing this off a debate you and me had a few days ago. Because maybe it's a debate for other people out there. And my hot take of the week is that Bucky Irvin is the best rookie running back this season. He's had 133 carries for 732 yards, 6 touchdowns, 35 receptions for 285 yards. I think he's by far the best rookie running back, and I know we had this debate because you think that Tyrone Tracy?
Yeah, Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy from the New York Giants. He believes that he is the best running back from the rookie class. So, you know, maybe we'll spark a debate there. What do you got to say about Bucky Irvin?
So I mean, I don't think he's better than Bucky Irving overall, but I did say my biggest thing was that he is a better receiver. I know Bucky Irvin has a lot more yards, just in total, but Tyrone Tracy, he came from he was a receiver. He played receiver all throughout college. Last year, he played running back, and then that's how he really sparked. So I think they're both over, producing on what everyone exceeded their expectations. So I mean, it's really cool to see both of them, balling out.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big Bucky Irvin guy. I picked him up in like week 3 of fantasy football off the waivers, so he's been my guy ever since then. So I have to shout him out. All right, so now we're gonna slide into our underdog of the week. This is a player that we pick every single week that doesn't get talked about a lot. So Mason, who is your underdog this week?
So my underdog this week is none other than former New York Giant Leonard Williams. Had 4 tackles, blocked an extra point, and had a 92-yard pick six as a defensive lineman. So yeah, for those that don't know, also he went to Mainland High School, which is like 15 minutes down the road from where we live. So
Hmm.
it's really cool to see kind of like a local guy really doing his thing. So yeah, that's my underdog of the week.
I did not know that he went to Mainland. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Danny's mom actually taught him in Spanish.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Good pick. My underdog of the week is a former New York Knick that goes by the name of RJ Barrett. A
How
lot of
dare.
people are not talking about his season that he's having this year because he's on the Raptors or whatever. The Raptors are really bad, but when you look at his numbers, he's putting up some pretty good numbers for a young, guard. He's averaging 24 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. But get this, at home this season, he is averaging 30 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. So he's looking like a pretty good player right now. I know once he was traded, there wasn't a lot of talk about him, but when he was in New York, there's a lot of talk about him potentially becoming like a future all-star. And now that he's on a bad team like the Raptors, he's not being talked about as much. So I feel like he deserves to be shout out because he's off to a great start this season.
I like it.
All right. So now we're going to slide over to the NFL. And like we do every week, we're going to start out with our NFL game prediction updates. This is where on Instagram and TikTok at GM Sports Report, we go over every game every single week and keep track of our records. This past week, you and me tied, and we both had a personal best. Sorry, we were 15-1, which is pretty impressive. We were both one game away from being undefeated this week, but that sets the all-time records with me at 135 and 60 and you 130 and 65. So still separated by 5 games going into this next week. Starting to run out of time here, I must say.
I know, I know. I was thinking last week, like, oh, I kind of got to make some bold decisions, but I
Mm,
just had to go who I thought was gonna win, and like, if I start going bold and rogue, I'm not gonna be able to catch up if I get them wrong. So we'll see.
it's fair enough. Um, all right, now I want to go into one of the bigger headlines that came from this past week in the NFL, and that's that Christian McCaffrey is out for most likely out for the rest of the year after suffering an injury in the Buffalo Bills game. This is just a huge blow
Mhm.
to the 49ers. Their team is just being depleted by injuries right now. So, Mason, I just want to get your opinions on that right now.
Yeah, I mean it's he'll be reevaluated in 6 weeks, so we'll see if they well, yeah, I know they're not going to make the playoffs. I really don't think so. Just kind of with all the injuries and stuff that they've had going on. But not only is he out for the season, Jordan Mason is placed on IR with a high ankle sprain. 49ers D line, Kevin Givens tore his pec and will also go on injured reserve. And I don't know if you knew this, but they're who's their left tackle? Shoot, I forgot.
Williams?
Trent Williams, yeah, Trent Williams. His kid was actually just stillborn yesterday, so that's really just terrible for him and his family, and they just have a lot going on over there in the 49ers organization. So I don't think anyone expected all this, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a fall from grace. I mean, last year you're like a top team in the NFL. And,
Hmm.
now it's like this whole season seems like it's a dumpster fire. A
Yeah.
lot of it not their fault, but there is some blame to be put on them as well. They've had some
Yeah.
questionable stuff going throughout the season, but like you said, I don't see them making the playoffs this year anymore. Losing
Hmm.
McCaffrey is a big loss. Obviously, you already didn't have him for most of the season, then you just lose him when you get
Yeah.
him back. And now Jordan Mason's out, so essentially your RB1 and RB2 are both out now
Yeah.
going forward, which is just brutal. And yeah, it's not looking good for them. So I wouldn't have your
Right.
hopes up if you're a 49ers fan.
Hmm.
All right, this kind of leads me to my next topic in the NFL, which is, we're in a good portion of the NFL season now where we can start making these claims. I just want to know, in your opinion, who is the best team in the NFL right now?
So I'll have to go with a team that pretty much everyone's been high on all year, and that's the Detroit Lions. Yeah, they almost lost to the Bears last week on something I'll get into later on a pretty horrible crucial coaching mistake, but they just looked amazing. Every guy on that team looks like they're playing their best football, and not only that, it looks like they're having fun with it. You see all the Sonic and Knuckles stuff with Jameer Gibbs and Montgomery, but yeah, it's so cool and it's refreshing to see. So yeah, that's who I think is the best team in the NFL. All without being with Aiden Hutchinson too, which is who probably would have won Defensive Player of the Year. So yeah.
Look, I do love the Lions, and I think that they are a top team, but I've been starting to gain this opinion the past couple weeks just off of watching them. I really do think that the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFL. Um, it sucks that we're not going to see an Eagles Lions game until most likely like the
NFC
NFC
Championship.
Championship.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get a feel for it because both teams are just
Hmm.
dominating right now. They both look like very complete and whole teams. But I just look at the Eagles and the momentum they have right now. They look like they're improving every single week. And I'm not saying that the Lions aren't either. I love the Lions.
Hmm.
They're like my personal team that I'm rooted for since the Dolphins are like irrelevant now.
Yeah, me
I
too.
just
Me
think
too.
that the Eagles, they look super good. Their defense looks amazing. I mean, we saw what they did to the Ravens, who's considered one of the best, offenses in football last week, holding them to what was it, like 19 points, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, just very, dominant performances, and obviously you have the offense with AJ Brown, you got Smith, Saquon Barkley's looking like an MVP candidate. Jalen Hurts is having a good year. They just look like a very complete team, and in my opinion, over these last couple weeks, they've looked like the best team in the NFL. But I will say the Lions are right behind them, and personally, I
Mhm.
prefer the Lions. But just off of what I've seen in momentum, I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Mhm. I like it.
All right, so now we're going to slide into our three takeaways. This was just three things we took away from the past week in the NFL. So, Mason, go ahead and give us your three takeaways.
So my first takeaway is Jerry Judy had a career night against his former team, the Denver Broncos. I know he was tweeting talking about like he wanted to come in there and set a statement and pretty much kick their butt. But like they didn't come away with the win, but I'll tell you what, he did the best he could. He had 9 catches for 235 yards and a touchdown, which is just absolutely phenomenal. I know he's been going through a lot of trash allegations these past couple years, and he was one of the best receivers on Alabama. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see that he does that against his former team, but we'll see if he can kind of keep it up, finish out the season strong. My second takeaway is Kirk Cousins had huge struggles in loss to the Chargers. 24 for 39, 245 yards, and 4 interceptions. It's just, couldn't put any scores on the board. I think it was like 3 games now without a passing touchdown, which is like some Daniel Jones stuff. It's just hard to watch for a guy that everyone, enjoys watching, and just a good guy in total. And the third one, I was actually at this game, Jacksonville Jaguars versus Houston Texans. Aziz Al Shair ejected and suspended for 3 games on a brutal hit to Trevor Lawrence. The environment after the hit, like at first, it was like, holy crap, like his head just bounced off the floor. And like, of course, you don't want to see that to anybody. I know you have experienced it with like Tua and all of that happening, but just to see that in real time and like in person, it's one of those things where it's like, holy crap. And the whole mood of the whole like stadium just changed. And, guys were getting in fights the whole time. Um, Al Shair actually, after he was told he was ejected, he went over to try and I guess fight the Jags again, and he got put over to kind of like the side of the end zone, and fans started throwing water bottles at him and stuff. It was ridiculous. So yeah, I think that was a very dirty hit, and I'm glad he's suspended. So yeah, those are my three takeaways.
Real quick off that last part, I also am
Yeah,
glad
yeah.
that he's suspended because the Dolphins are playing against the Texans right now, and I don't need that happening to
Ah,
Tua. So very happy to see that
yeah,
he's suspended for this next week's game, so that way Tua can stay safe.
that's
Um,
so funny.
yeah. Starting with my number one takeaway this week, I put a guy that a lot of people wrote off this season in the beginning of the season. Bryce Young is starting to look like a legit NFL quarterback, and he has a
Yeah.
lot of potential. This last week, he went 26 for 46 for 298 yards and a touchdown in an overtime thriller against the Buccaneers. He looks like he's starting to gain that confidence. I think he needed to be benched for that short portion of time to kind of
Hmm.
look at himself in the mirror and realize, hey, there's things I need to work on and I need to improve here and start improving fast. And he's done just that. He's looked pretty good. So yeah, I just wanted to shout him out real quick. Number two kind of goes with what I was just saying a couple minutes ago, and that's just the Eagles and the Lions are in a league of their own. Um,
Yeah.
I really don't see a team that's like in that tier with them. They just both look like they'll be any team that comes in their way.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see if that's going to be the NFC Championship, how that turns out. I really don't know. Like it could go either way. I
I'm
really
so
don't know how
excited
that's going to
for it,
go.
yeah.
I know.
Because last
So
year,
yeah,
yeah, last year's was the Niners and Lions, and that was amazing. That came in
yeah,
down to a last drive thing.
it did. Yeah, they definitely look like two teams that are in a league of their own. So that was my second takeaway. My third takeaway is that Kirk Cousins' 4-year contract is starting to look
Yeah.
concerning. Atlanta's 0-3 in their last 3 games, and Kirk 4 interceptions last week. That's just not ideal. Looking
Mm.
rough. He's only getting older. They drafted a young quarterback in Penix. So you give him that 4-year contract, it's starting to look a little questionable. I'm sure a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans are wanting to go to Penix Jr. here. shortly. So
Yeah.
that contract's starting to look bad.
Yeah.
All right, those are my 3
Yep.
takeaways. All right,
Nice.
so now we're gonna slide over to the NBA and do what we do every week. Just give out a player of the week. So Mason, who's your NBA player of the week?
I'll go with a current Nick guy. I've been, I love him, and that's Jalen Brunson. Haven't talked too much about him on the podcast this year. I've been trying to keep it not too biased, I guess. I feel like I've been doing a good job, but 26.8 points per game, 9.6 assists per game, and 52.4 3-point percentage. So, he's just been doing amazing this week, and it was cool to see because we went west, pretty big road trip. So it's cool to see him get the job done out there.
Nice. My player of the week, I'm going with a Nick Killer, and
Oh boy,
that man goes by the name of Trey Young.
I don't
The
like
main
him.
reason I'm picking it, the main reason I'm picking him is because of the 2 games he had last week. They played Cleveland twice, and they gave Cleveland 2 losses. In those 2 games, he had one of the games where he went 20 points, 22 assists, and 4 rebounds. And in the other game, he had 21 points, 11 assists, and 3 rebounds. Essentially being the leader of that team and beating, a team that has been off to an incredible start in Cleveland. Everyone's been wondering if Cleveland's like a legit contender, and they gave Cleveland 2 losses. So very impressive in my opinion. I feel like that deserves a shout out. So Trey Young is my NBA player of the week. Ice Trey. All right. So now we're going to slide over to the team of the week. So Mason, who's your NBA team of the week?
So I mean, it's pretty much I just put the Hawks just for beating Cleveland twice. Once at home and then once on the road.
I knew you loved
You
Ice
pretty much
Trey.
said you just said it was Trey Young, but it's a team sport, so the Hawks
Yeah.
beat the Cavs, not Trey Young. It's so funny because every time I go to a Knicks game, whether we win or lose, it's always F Trey Young after and like the halls and stuff, and like it happened like 2-3 years ago, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just funny. But yeah, I picked the Hawks just for being Cleveland.
If you're putting up 22 assists, I'm gonna say that you beat Cleveland. That's just my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah,
Atlanta Hawks, they did beat Cleveland twice. But the facilitator was Trey Young. No, I'm just
right, but you
messing with
gotta
you.
put the ball in the basket. No.
I know, fair enough. And he did that for 20 points and 21 points.
Oh.
But all right. My team of the week, I have 2. I know I always pick more than one usually. Um, the first team that I'm going with is a team that I was kind of low on at the start of this year. I think everyone was low on, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. After having a terrible start to the season, they've really turned it
Mhm.
around in these last 10 games. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Giannis is putting up a very quiet MVP campaign right now. He's averaging 33 points per game, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. So he's looking dominant, and I don't get why he's not like being talked about a lot right now.
Yeah.
He's looking like one of the best players in the league right now. So that's my first team. And the second team is a team I think we've talked about for the past 2 weeks. And it's just the Houston Rockets. I mean, they're off to this incredible
Yeah.
start right now. They're also 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they are second place in the West right now. If you would have told me at the start of the season that a couple weeks into the season the Houston Rockets would be in second place, I would laugh in your face and say you don't know ball. But here we are. They just look like a team that's firing on all cylinders. I love their mix of young guys with veterans. I've been talking about it for 2 weeks now, so I'm very high on them, and and I'm happy to see that they're having some success. It's going to be very interesting to see if they keep in the second place, third place area. If around the trade deadline, if they're going to go all in and try to equip a star, or if they're going to stick to their guns, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with their future here. So I just
Right.
wanted to shout them out real quick. Those are my 2 teams of the week.
Nice.
All right. So now we're going to slide over to college football. And last week was a pretty big week in college football. A lot of rivalry games happening. So Mason, I just want to get your opinion on all the rivalry games and your thoughts on all of it.
So for me, just this week in general is probably my favorite week when it comes to fall sports. We had so many great rivalry week games. My Florida Gators killed FSU, which I'm pretty sure everyone saw coming.
Hmm.
Just absolute horrible organization, and I love to see it. And I'd say probably the best game that I think is hands down. I don't think really anyone was expecting this close of a game, but Georgia versus Georgia Tech went into 8 overtimes. Um, 44-42, Georgia won. Just had some great play. They had Haynes King went 26 for 36, 303 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then, he had 110 yards rushing also. And then on the Georgia side, Carson Beck had 297 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, just absolutely offensive, light show. And it was fun to watch. It just kept going forever and ever. It was awesome. Oh, and another thing real quick.
Go
Um,
for it.
all the stuff, you've been seeing with the flags, placing it in the middle of the field. I'm not too sure how you feel about it, but if you don't want your rival team to come in and place their flag on your I was about to say court, but your field, then win. Then there's no all these massive brawls and stuff. I mean, yeah, coaches don't teach that and they teach respect and stuff, but they also teach you to win football games. And if you don't do that, then what right do you have to, you know, be upset about them planting a flag? So there's going to be disrespect in rivalry week. There's so much adding up to it, and all the history. It's not just a game when it comes down to these things, because these things have been happening. College football has been a thing for 150 years. So just stuff that has been accumulating over time, and I love to see it. So it's my little rant on that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because that was going to be my main talking point about rivalry week.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. If you are going
Hmm.
to cry and complain about a team planting your flag in the middle of the field, do something about it. How about you win the football game? You know what I mean? It's like I
Slap
love
them
the
then.
energy that I saw last. Yeah, exactly. I love the energy I saw last week from all these rival teams. That's what makes it fun. Everyone that's complaining
Exactly.
about the disrespect or whatever, that's what makes it fun.
Hmm.
It makes it a
Yep.
rivalry. It's not going to be a fun rivalry game if both teams respect each other.
Patting
You
each
want
other
both
on the
teams to go out
back.
there wanting to kill each other. And that's exactly what
Yep.
we saw last week. And that's what made it one of the most entertaining weeks in college football this year. So I
Yep.
100% agree with you. I love it. Now, I will say none of them look as cool as when Baker Mayfield did it that one year. But
No.
I
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
energy. I do love the energy. And I 100% agree with you. If you're going to complain about it and you're going to cry about it, then how about you go in there and win the football game? Plain and simple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I agree with you 100% there.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Yeah, 100%. You know me, I'm a big rivalry guy. Speaking
Yeah.
of rivalries, the Heat just got absolutely demolished by the Celtics, so it's starting to look like that's not even a rivalry anymore. We didn't have Jimmy Butler though. Sorry, that's a little off-topic rant that I just had to get off my chest.
It
Um,
happens.
yeah. So another thing that happened in college football this last week was another dominant Travis Hunter performance. And a lot of people are starting to think that his performance last week kind of locked him up the Heisman Trophy. So I want to get your opinion. Do you think that Travis Hunter is officially the Heisman?
I do. I think that he is, the Heisman, and it's sad to see because a guy like Genty, we're probably not going to see in a pretty long time. Just the numbers that he's putting up, because everyone's talking about Travis Hunter's, like, pretty much Heisman ceiling game. Well, I think it was like 2 touchdowns and interception. So he did his thing, but Genty did as well. He had 37 carries, 226 yards, and a touchdown. Now he did lose a fumble, which it's pretty much why everyone was like, "Oh well, Travis Hunter won it just because Genty screwed up there." But um, if you're gonna ask me who's gonna make the biggest impact on a team, I'm probably gonna say, like, for a team that needs like a guy, I'm gonna say Genty, because you can't play both sides of the ball in the NFL. I'm just saying that we haven't seen it. We have with Deion Sanders, but he didn't hold it up the whole time. So Genty is going to be the guy that is going to be reliable the whole time through and through. And I think if the top landing spot for him would probably be the Dallas Cowboys. And I couldn't imagine him on the Dallas Cowboys. It would be terrifying, yeah. So that's my kind of rant on that.
I'm gonna. I don't know. Like between like the whole like statement you made about who's gonna have more of an
I
impact in the
know.
NFL, I
I
really don't
know.
know. Like I can see your point. Like I see what you're talking about, but I just think that even Travis Hunter as a wide receiver alone is gonna be like a amazing once in a like not once in a generation, but a very talented wide receiver that could
Yeah.
be like a franchise wide receiver caliber player. It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out.
It will.
I
It will.
personally think that Travis Hunter will have more of an impact like 5 years down the road, but I do see what you're saying, and I could see it going the other way, so that's very interesting.
Mhm.
Now on top of the conversation about did Travis Hunter lock up the Heisman, I believe he did. Like you said, Genty's having, like, a crazy year and something we probably won't see for a very long time, but, Travis Hunter is also doing just that, so
I know.
it's very hard to debate on. I just think that Travis Hunter's kind of locked it up. I think we've talked about this multiple times. He has the popularity, he has the media on his side. Prime. He's got
Got
Coach
Deion
Prime over there.
Sanders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think he has it pretty much locked up. But both players, once in a generation type of
Phenomenal.
talent,
Yeah.
putting up some crazy numbers in college football this year. So maybe they can split it in half and give it to the two of them.
Yeah, I don't think so.
um. All right, so now we're gonna slide into segment 3, and this is kind of like a little favorite of mine that we haven't done in the past couple weeks, and that is the floor is not yours. This is just where we go on a list 5 to 1, talking about some of the biggest fails happening in the sports world. So Mason, go ahead.
So for number 5, I'm just gonna pick the New York Giants for even being an organization right now. It's just it's it's sad to watch. I saw a TikTok saying how 3 guys that the New York Giants used to have is was it Xavier McKinney, Saquon Barkley, and Leonard Williams, and they all have been going crazy recently. Xavier McKinney, he wasn't really that big of a name on the around the league when he was on the Giants, and then he comes over to the Packers and is just putting up all these interceptions and great times. So, yeah, that's 4 or 5, and then 4, I'll go with. Let's see, I'll go with Trey Young for just existing. I'm not a big Trey Young fan. And the fact that he's balling and like, what is he putting up 20? You said like 20 assists or something.
Yeah,
Just I don't
that's
know.
so
I just
unnecessary. Why? Like, why not?
I
Why do
know.
you hate him
Well, it
so
was
much?
unnecessary that you took a shot at me for being a New York fan last week. So that's
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
that's fair enough. So for 3, let's see. I'll go Aziz Al Shair. I mean, just for killing Trevor Lawrence like that. And I saw a graphic saying how he had 5 yards, and Trevor Lawrence is already kind of giving himself up. And it just still took the shot. It's ridiculous. And it's sad to see. And then
Hmm.
2, I'll go for shoot, I just had it. 2, I'll go for the Philadelphia 76ers for absolutely just tanking. Well, not tanking, but being not as good as everyone thought, and they're just trash. So I'll put them at
Can I
2.
touch
And
on that real quick?
yeah, 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 go for it, go for it,
Because this is something I've been wanting to get off my chest.
go
During
for
this
it.
NBA offseason, the whole offseason, you turn on First Take, you turn on NBA Today, you turn on
Uh-huh.
these ESPN shows. As soon as the Sixers signed Paul George, all they could
Top
talk
3 in the
about
East.
is how good they're going to be, how they're the only team that's going to be able to compete with Boston in the East, how Joel Embiid is finally going to get them over the hump, and they're going to be some top team in the East. And I feel like us real NBA fans just knew all along that this Paul George thing
Yeah,
was just smoke in the air because at the end of the day, Joel Embiid has the durability of a 95-year-old grandma, and Paul George is right there with him, getting injured every other night. So we all knew it
yeah,
wasn't going to
twice,
work.
twice
So
already. Yeah,
it just baffles me that all they could talk about all offseason long is how good they're going to be and how they're going to be the only team that can compete with Boston. And look at them now. That's all I got to say about that. It really gets my gears going because, none of them are admitting they're wrong either. They'll all blame it on the
well,
injuries and stuff.
do you want to give some praise to your boy McCain?
Oh, yes, I do. I will say the one bright spot for the 76ers has been Jared McCain. And I think I texted this to you. I'll never forgive Pat Riley for not taking Jared McCain because I
Yeah.
absolutely love his game and his confidence. I feel bad for him having to be in Philadelphia. But yes,
Oh, I know.
the one bright spot for the Sixers has been Jared McCain. I will say that.
Yeah, and I do think that if all these, injuries went down and stuff, maybe he wouldn't have been as big of a role, but he's stepping up into it as good. But Yes, there's still 2 because they're trash, and I hate Philly. But number 1, will be Matt Eberflus,
Mm.
for, pretty much losing on Thanksgiving against the red hot Detroit Lions. I mean, it your guy gets sacked, with 30 seconds left in the game. You're down 3 in field goal position. You take the timeout and you kick the field goal, but instead they let the clock go all the way pretty much down with 5 seconds left on the clock and let Caleb Williams just throw the ball up. And it's like I'm glad he got fired, and I saw you say something on your TikTok, on the TikTok, saying at least he still has his timeout, which is funny. But, yeah. So he's my number 1, and I'm glad he got fired.
Yeah, that felt like a long time coming.
Yeah.
For the floor is not yours. I actually have an honorable mention before I get into my top 5. I'm just actually freestyling this, and that's just the refs in the Raiders Chiefs game. For obvious reasons.
Oh
The
my
ending of that game
gosh.
was just
Oh my I
absolutely
forgot about
crazy,
that game.
and it really just seems like
Oh
the
my
Chiefs
god.
every single week just barely make it out alive, and it's just getting so
Oh,
frustrating to watch. That's my honorable mention right there. I completely forgot about that till just now, and I felt like I had to say that. All right, so now I'm gonna go into my actual top 5, starting with number 5, and that is the Chicago Cubs not being aggressive this offseason.
mm,
Let me tell you, okay, it's hard being a Cubs fan sometimes, and this is exactly one of those examples because we have a pretty decent roster right now, but we are just a couple of big pieces away from being World Series contenders. Okay, um, our GM, our owner, come out within like the first 2 weeks of the offseason and say they're not going to be in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. They openly said we're not going to be in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. You claim you're a team that wants to win, and you're openly saying in 1 to 2 weeks that you're not going to go for this once in a generation talent when you have the money, you have the fan base, you have like a good sales pitch to give to Juan Soto. I mean, like I get that everyone wants Juan Soto right now. It's just going to be very hard to get him, but at least give it a shot. I mean, you know who's a team that no one expected him to be in the sweepstakes for that,
Austin.
gave it a shot is Boston, the Red Sox. And it's like, just give it a shot and see what happens. It's so frustrating to hear that. We signed Matthew Boyd on a 2-year deal yesterday. Woohoo. We got a number 5 starter. That fixes all our problems. I'm sorry, but that's just so frustrating to me because the Cubs fan base is the most loyal fan base in any sport. I'll say that. I'll say that. And every game is a sold out crowd. They're a loyal fan base. They always are cheering for their team. They deserve to see a winning team. And we have the market to be able to go out and get some of these big name free agents. And they're just not doing it. And it's so frustrating to see right now. So that was my number 5. Number 4, I have Kirk Cousins 4 interception game. I mean, that just has to be on there. If you're throwing 4
Yeah.
interceptions in a game, that has to be on a segment where you're talking about some of the biggest fails. I mean, that is like me when we play Madden co-op and I go out there and I say I'm not going to throw a single interception and I go and throw 4 before halftime
Every game.
every single game. So Kirk Cousins put up a me type of performance in real life. So that had to be number 4. Number 3, I don't know if you saw this, but the Utah Jazz were playing the Lakers the other night and
Mhm.
it was down to the final possession, and they gave Colin Sexton the ball. He went in and made a layup for a game winner. The coach called timeout before he made the layup, so it did not count, and they went on to lose the game. That is a huge
Wow.
failure, if you ask me, and that deserves to be on the list. I mean, imagine you're Colin Sexton and you go and you hit a game winner just to find out
Game
your
winner.
coach called timeout because he wasn't confident enough in you. That's
Oh
just
my
crazy,
gosh.
absolutely crazy.
No, that's beef.
Um,
That's straight up beef right there.
Yeah, that coach has something on Colin Sexton, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my number 3. Number 2 is also Matt Eberflus. Just basically threw away that game on Thanksgiving Day. Deserves to be fired, like you said, but hey, he still has his timeout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna really say about that. I think you touched on that pretty well. And number 1, this one pains me to say because this guy has been a fan favorite for so long. But number 1, I have Justin Tucker. This last week against the
Uh,
Eagles, he missed 2 field goals and an extra point. If he would have made all his kicks, the Ravens would have won 26-24. And yeah, it's just brutal to see the fall off that's been happening to Justin Tucker this year. He actually has the lowest field goal percentage in the NFL this season out of the starting kickers. So brutal to see because this man's like an easy Hall of Fame kicker, definitely one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time. And just to see him struggle like this and fall off is really sad to
Mhm.
see. So I had to put that at number one.
Wait, so who was your number 2?
Matt
Did you put
Matt Eberflus,
and then 3 was
Sexton.
the section. Okay. Okay. I don't know why I thought you skipped 2.
No,
No, but yeah, those are good. I didn't know about that Sexton one. That's crazy.
oh, so crazy. Yeah, you should look it up. All
Yeah.
right. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on all things sports. For additional content, check the description to see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason signing off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you guys.